Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show tonight. We have a great guest for you. We've been waiting for you all week. We have Steve Kemp with us. And, I don't have that many novelists on my show. I've had a couple, but his book was so interesting, and it's about someone or people that we're very interested in. So I invited him to be on the show, and I hope you love him as much as I love him and his book because they're tied together. Steve Kemp is going to be introducing you to Harry Dennison tonight. And Harry Dennison is a firefighter, and he's also the hero of his book. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Steve Kemp.
Oh, hey, how you doing, Kat? Sorry, my book just fell.
You got so excited it just jumped right off.
So how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm up here in Cape Cod, and, it was beautiful last night, Steve, because it snowed. It was our first snow, and it was a really dry snow. So as we were driving along in the car, it was a full moon, and the stars were out, and the snow was just sparkling everywhere. It was beautiful.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this morning, it all melted because it warmed up to 50 degrees, and all of my 30 turkeys showed up in my front yard, gobbling away, going, okay, so where's our food? Because the ground is still frozen, and we can't dig anything out. So I went and fed them, and I've got to tell you, I've never seen male turkeys dance like that. There was one that had feathers that were so long he kept stepping on them and falling over. And finally, this one female went over and pecked him on the top of the head like, you numbskull. So, Steve, tell us where you are.
I'm in Indianapolis, and we have a little bit of cold here. Temperatures definitely dropped. Not a lot of snow, though, so we get a little bit of similar weather. I think you guys get much worse, though, of course.
Oh, well, we've got a nice storm moving in tonight. And so the internet has gone down on Cape Cod, but fortunately, I have my little Mr. MiFi, and I use him whenever the internet goes down. And so we have ice on the trees. We have some black ice on the roads. It's supposed to drop down into the teens tonight. But as long as I have MiFi, I've got you on the show. We're going to have a great show. So tell me, Steve, what made you decide to write a novel series? This is a whole series about Harry Dennison, who is a firefighter.
Well, my first drive was that as a firefighter, I had a lot of stories. And truthfully, the entire genre of police detective novels is something my entire family reads, and they're very popular. I've read some of them, but I just didn't see a lot of firefighter stories out there, and it's just interesting that policemen and firemen kind of experience the same things. So I thought, well, I'd like to do it in all the stories that I have. Oh, there goes my book again. So I figured out that you had to have a story, though. So it wasn't so much just firefighting as the focus. I needed to have something else to write about. It actually wasn't the first book I wrote as far as, a lot of people say, well, you're a firefighter. Of course, you write a firefighter novel. But I wrote several others first before coming to this one, and was able to get a lot of my life experiences into the book around it, what I hoped is a good story.
So the people in your book, are they real? Did you kind of base this on real people and real stories?
Yeah, one of the challenges I think a lot of authors probably have is naming characters, naming books. It's hard to do. You're writing a great story, and literally it's like the whole process shuts down trying to come up with the name. And so I generally, and even the character, the title of the book is it's a conglomerate of different people I've met. I use somebody else's last name, somebody else's first name. Sometimes I just change some of the letters around. So all the characters in it are based on somebody. So if you're a firefighter in my city, even though I put it in Milwaukee, you could probably pick out who some of them are, but it's not intentional. It's just, when you think of somebody, if you can identify that person and kind of base it around them, it makes writing the story easier, in my opinion, because you can remember their attributes, remember the way they would act, and some of the funny things they might do. So.
Yeah, that's very true. I did that in my book, Surviving Cancerland, where I took all the doctors' names and I changed them around. But, that helps you write a better book. Mine's not mine's not fiction like yours is, but I still have to be careful, even though it's nonfiction, because I don't want somebody coming after me. And so I would imagine that's the same thing you've got to do in your book. You have to make sure that even though you're writing a story about someone you know and you use a similar name, it's different enough not to get yourself in trouble, right?
Well, and some of the stories I had, the people get into awkward situations and they do weird things, and not everybody's excited about having themselves put into a book. I would say, like, you change your doctor's names, even if it's all true, or even if you think you're putting someone in a positive light. I'm always worried that they're going to come back and say, no, I didn't like how you portrayed me. And well, I wasn't trying to offend you. I just wanted to write a story. And really, my goal in this book is some of the people that I thought of when I wrote it, more compliment was intended to them, just the way they impressed upon me in their lives. And I wanted to kind of put that into writing. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I noticed here in the paperwork that I got from you, you say that firefighting is one of the last true professions where someone can still find out what they are really made of. And Harry Dennison makes no exception. Tell us what you mean by that.
That was told to me by a former officer I had, and I think he mentioned being a cowboy, being a police officer, being a firefighter. The manly man professions, and I don't even know if that's politically correct anymore, but guys can go out and challenge themselves and kind of find out what they're made of. I love all the books, like The Right Stuff was one of my favorites, about the astronauts and the original program there, and things like that. Military books, I love those. A good, combat being a great challenge of personal character. So we do it on a more consistent basis, and it's just my opinion. It's one of the last areas that people can do that. The world's converting to more computer jobs, 9 to 5 office jobs, and you just don't get that. As a firefighter, you could be physically challenged to the point of being in fear for your life, which just if you go back 100, 150 years ago, that was almost an everyday experience for some people, for the settlers, for people moving out west. So it's one of the rare ones left in the world.
You also say that in the story, Harry Dennison attempts to take care of his men before he retires. So how is he trying to take care of his men, and why would he do that?
Well, having just been promoted myself, one of the goals as an officer is just to make sure that everybody's all right, make sure they're safe, make sure they get home every day, and to make sure that and this character, like I said, was a person that was a former captain of mine, and I'll probably tell him one day. I haven't told him yet that this book's kind of revolves around what I thought was his style of leadership and the way he acted. I always felt like he was looking out for us and looking to make our days more fun, to make sure we were prepared to do the job, and to make life easy. Everybody's had a bad boss. Nobody wants those. It's just let people do their own thing, trust that they will do their own thing and make you look good. And that's a simple management tips for me.
Mm-hmm. So in your book, you talk about how most of the men in the book, or Harry Dennison's men under him, are pretty much on the straight and narrow. But there are certain people who, one of them develops a taste for cocaine. Another one develops a taste for women. And so you write this into your book, which is something that happens in everyday life, right?
It has happened to me. I've had friends kind of go out on a southern path, and they were guys that everyone liked. A lot of the stories in the book, I walk a fine line on writing it because I don't want to make the fire department look bad, because this stuff doesn't go on anymore. So, real things that have happened. Like I say, a couple of guys have been fired, so I guess we couldn't talk about them technically. But, a lot of stories are under the table from 30, 40 years ago. But you want to bring it in and say, this did happen. These were real people, and that's how it goes. So that's the fine line I walk. I try not to go too far into debauchery and interesting situations, because it has become a really top-of-the-line profession. But 20, 30 years ago, a lot of this stuff happened. It's not something we talk about a lot, but it did here and there. So,
it's one of the things that make the characters in your book so real. Those are things that everybody has to deal with. And, we hear about people who have problems with alcoholism, yet they're able to perform extremely well on the job. It's as soon as they leave that job that they start to fall apart. So it's almost like their job holds them together, the love they have for their brothers in arms, as it were, that makes them tried and true on the job. But then when they go home to reality, to the real world, to the pressures of family life, to the pressures of marriage, that's when that really seems to come out. And you portray that in this book, and it makes your characters so real.
Well, it's a fine line. In my 18-year career, I've had probably 11, 12 guys I've known kill themselves. And I wasn't close friends with them all, but I've known them all. I've heard their stories and thought they were all good guys. And firefighting can be tough. Police work can be just as tough. So, that alcohol, drugs, those do start playing a part in people's lives, and it becomes a coping mechanism. And it's terrible that those guys, we had firefighters killed in the line of duty. I've seen some of my friends die in the line of duty. And people deal with that differently. And sometimes they bottled up. Sometimes they, use alcohol to try to deal with it. And it's sad to all of us that these aren't terrible people, just real people, like you said. And it happens in every profession. Everybody has a different thing that really gets to them. And firefighters are generally really resilient. They can handle a lot. They take a beating. In the first 2 or 3 years, I would say on our job, you're going to see about everything there is to see: life, death. So yeah, it's sad to see when somebody goes down that path. I tried to capture it. So
yeah,
that you liked it.
Yeah, I do. I applaud you for doing that, because it is so real, and it's something that I think our readers need to realize, that despite wrestling with their own personal demons, they're willing to go out there and put their lives on the line for all of us. It doesn't matter whose house is on fire. They're going to be there, and they're going to go into the flames. They're going to go into hell to bring whoever's in that house out, despite what's going on in their family, despite their own demons they're wrestling with. And that makes this book very special.
Yeah, you always got to remember as a leader that the person showing up to work could be going through a divorce, could be trying to save their marriage, could be they have a kid struggling in school, which is very tough on anybody. But you show up in that door and you're expected at 7:15, first thing in the door, before you even get a cup of coffee, you might be on the rig going to a fire. And the expectation when you show up there is that they're in trouble and they need your help. And we have to put all that aside and just go do it. And it's compartmentalized. We're very good at it as firefighters. But it does have a price down the road. But it's tough to remember when you need somebody to help you. You don't want to hear that they're going through a divorce. You don't really care they're going through a divorce. You need them to go into that fire and get their kid or whatever it might be. Just put that fire out. So you like that part too?
Yeah, I did. And what I really liked, one of the things that I liked the best was the juxtaposition, how Harry is kind of a non-believer, and yet he's willing to risk his life, and his men come first, and he's doing all the things that a really true believer, someone who goes to church every single Sunday, he's doing the same thing they would do, and yet he thinks he's a non-believer. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think that most people, even as believers, I'm sorry, my dog's attacking me here.
I'll bring him up and let us see him.
No, that dog's too big. I think even most people, and I'm not a highly religious person, so I don't want to quote the Bible or anything, but just think of Noah building the ark. I found that a great movie that was recently done. And you just think, oh, well, of course Noah built the ark and he believed in God. But imagine somebody coming to you or hearing that voice and saying, build the ark today. And you're like, I'm pretty sure I would not. So I'm no Noah. But, to say I believe in God, and I do, I find it foolish not to. but what comes with that? In this case, Harry Dennison is hearing a voice or seeing direction given into him. But in everyone's life, I think it's hard to say, well, that's God speaking to me. You would be hard pressed to get anybody to believe you for that matter, because it's this mythical entity that might exist, might not. I don't know. But I find it hard to believe, or I have always said believe. Just to me, atheists don't make a lot of sense. Just, you don't have to put a lot of effort into it. Just believe that it could be out there. Hedge your bet, as they would say. So yeah, that's Harry. He's I think the normal person that is having these things happen to him, the unexplained. To say that ghosts don't exist, that anything doesn't exist, I find it hard to do, because maybe they do. I have no proof one way or the other. So it's a normal person encountering this. So.
Great. So tell us how we can find your book. I'm going to hold it up. Can you hold your book up next to you as well? So that
on me. So, there's Harry Dennison. I'll take the hand off the cover. Just look it up on Amazon Books. I don't have anything complex. Kay Bewley is the publisher, so Bewley Publishing has a link also. But Amazon Books, and just type in Harry Dennison. I went out on the internet, just typed in Harry Dennison, and it popped up, I think, on the second search. So nothing too complex.
And do you have a website that we can go to?
The Bewley Publishing would be it. There's a link on there with the book on it and the different authors that Kay has published. So.
Okay, and that's BEWLEY Publishing, and that is actually out of England, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Yes, International Publishing. Great. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. Your book is amazing. I really, really liked it, and I know that my audience will too.
Well, I appreciate it, and congratulations on the Dr. Oz show. I know that was big for you.
Thank you.
You and Dr. Oz, that was great. You going to tell me about that real quick before you go?
Well, actually, I will. It was great. Dr. Oz is such a sensitive, and believe it or not, he's a very soft-spoken man. And he invited me to share with the world how important it is to listen to your inner guidance, much like your Harry Dennison here, when it comes to life crisis, because you never know, that little quiet voice in your head might save your life. And then when you talk about it, you may save somebody else's life. So hopefully our readers and our listeners and our viewers today, because we are on iHeartRadio as well. So if you're not seeing us right now and just hearing us, know that a lot of the characters that are in this book are characters you're going to identify with. And that's what makes this book so special. So Harry Dennison is written by a firefighter. You're seeing him or hearing him right now. And it's set around the life of a firefighter. And it's based on real fighter events. So my gosh, if you love firefighters, you are going to consume this book.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for the time, Kat, and congratulations.
Thank you. So don't go away, audience. We've got another great book coming right up for you after this. It's going to be Infinite Possibilities, and that's coming up as soon as we come back. And again, it's by the same publisher as we're watching with Steve right now. So don't go away. We're going to be back. Thanks again, Steve. Thanks so much for being on the show, and best of luck with your book.
Thanks.